governors, as you all know, throughout the course of our administration, and we're excited to continue that in year 2. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, Vice Chair of the National Governors Association, to kick off our business session.
Julie, thank you. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, on behalf of the National Governors Association, our chair, Governor Hutchison, and each and every one of us, it's an honor to be with you. We cherish and value the relationship that we share with this administration. Thank you, Mr. President, First Lady, for being with us last night, which meant a great deal. Madam Vice President, you made history and you continue to make history every day. It was great having you in New Jersey a short while ago. I know I speak on behalf of all of the states where you each have visited, Mr. President, as well. The relationship that each of us as individual governors have with this administration is critically important, and I could say more broadly, I know the chairman, Governor Hutchison, would endorse this. The relationship that the National Governors Association has with this administration and with each of you personally is extremely important and existentially important, I would say, for each of us and for the association. So on behalf of all of us, God bless you both, and thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, and may I add to Governor Murphy's comments, and thank you for the greeting that you extended. Mr. President, I would also extend greetings on behalf of all the governors, and Madam Vice President, the same. Thank you for hosting us today in the East Room. This annual tradition has really never been more important and timely. And during our weekend meeting that we've just concluded, your administration has been extraordinarily helpful to us. Secretary Buttigieg joined us for discussion on the infrastructure with Mitch Landrieu. They did an extraordinary job answering questions. Of course, the governors are used to fixing roads. We know how to get it done, and bridges and the infrastructure funds. You know, the consensus in a bipartisan way is we want flexibility, so send us the money, give us flexibility, we will spend it, and you can audit us. But we would welcome that partnership. I also want to thank Secretary Raimondo. She led a panel discussion on my passion of increasing computer science education in grades K through 12. And we have a plan as governors to do that. We believe it's a national security issue, and we're very appreciative of the support of your administration and Secretary Raimondo in that regard. I want to give thanks on a couple of points. All the governors appreciate the support of the National Guard. The National Guard has been indispensable and critical to the governors. They have assisted at our hospitals, our testing sites, distribution of vaccines, and more. So thank you for supporting our utilization of the National Guard with 100% reimbursement. That's been extraordinarily helpful. I also want to thank you for your clarity on keeping schools open. Your voice has been important from a national perspective. Our schools are open in classroom instruction, and thank you for that clarity. A couple things I hope that you will address today is we need the CDC to help us to have the right standards to end this pandemic and move to a more endemic status. And so that's an important element that we, as governors, in a bipartisan way, hope that the CDC can be helpful to define that more clearly. We want to go from today to more normal. And then finally, I had the opportunity to serve in the Bush administration on border security. And so I know how tough it is. I know how difficult it is. But I would like, when we mention the National Guard, some of the governors have actually sent our National Guard resources, to the border to assist at state expense. So we'd welcome your comments as to how you're meeting this challenge and the plans for the future in that regard. With that, we very much look forward to your comments and the questions from the other governors. Thank you, Mr. President, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Gov.
Great.
I'm going to yield to the Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Again.
Welcome, everyone. I trust you had a wonderful evening last night. I heard stories. But I want to thank you all, in particular for the work that you have dedicated your lives to and the work specifically over the last 2 years. For so many of you, these last 2 years have presented probably some of the greatest challenges of your careers. Moments where our constituents, where the American people, doubted what each day would bring, whether it would bring a sense of optimism or despair. During these days, you have held the trust of the people you represent. You have worked in creative ways even when the resources were not there. You have inspired confidence in the people of your state to have some sense of optimism that things will get better. You have had to look in the eyes of people who have lost family members because of this pandemic, people who have lost their jobs, and all the while you have not relented, you have not given up. You are leaders who don't throw up your hands, instead you have all rolled up your sleeves. And it is historically a very important relationship between any presidential administration, regardless of party affiliation, and the governors of the states that bring that kind of sense of surety and stability to the people we represent as a country. And this organization in particular conducts itself in a way that has always been about the highest ideals of partnership between local, state, and federal government, and bipartisanship. And as you all know, the President and I come from a background of local and state government, so we know the work that you do every day and how you are on the ground always accountable to the people you represent. I was thinking about the historical relationship between governors and presidential administrations, and remembering it was in the Clinton administration that that CHIP, the Child Health Insurance Program, was passed. And it was the governors of the states who made it real and ensured that the children of our nation would have and receive the kind of protection they deserve. I was reminded that it was when President Bush was in office and had to endure and deal with the aftermath of September 11, 2001, and realized that we as a nation had to be stronger, needed to be stronger around coordination between local, state, and federal government. And it was the governors of our country who then helped break through the silos to ensure that we could do the work that is one of our highest purposes and responsibility, which is to protect our national security. I'm reminded of the work that happened during Hurricane Sandy, when in the Obama and Biden administration, working together with the then governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, in the height of a very contested presidential election, broke through that and worked in a bipartisan way to bring relief to the people of that state, and by example, set a tradition that I know this organization cares about deeply, which is showing that when we in particular face crises, we come together, regardless of party affiliation, to do the work that must be done. And so we are looking at historic challenges and new challenges that range from the climate crisis to COVID to cybersecurity. And together we will continue to work together as we have over the last 12 months. And with that said, I would also like to ask that in the spirit of bipartisanship, that we think about our partnership in the context of our states being laboratories of our democracy, and in particular on the issue of voting. I believe that regardless of who we voted for in the last election, we all, as leaders of our nation, understand the importance of ensuring that all people who are eligible to vote have an ability and a meaningful ability to vote and access to the ballot. So I would ask that in this coming year we work together to ensure that all Americans who are eligible to vote actually have meaningful access to the ballot. And with that, I want to thank you all again for your work and the work we will continue to do together. And I will now introduce the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much. Look, I'm going to... Thank you. Governors, it's a pleasure to have you all here. And I'm glad you're having an opportunity, and my cabinet and overall team is getting a chance to meet you all, know you personally, and engage with you on the great concern that you have. You know, I had a chance to hear from several leaders of my administration this morning, including former governors. If you notice, I hired a lot of governors and mayors because they know how to get things done. And you have two governors sitting to my left here who are taking on major responsibilities. I remember when we were out on the trail, Governor Vilsack telling me that the first industry in the world is going to have net zero emissions, going to be agriculture. And he was right. At the time, it was a fairly novel idea, but a lot of you picked it up and moved beyond. And I know that, look, the American Rescue Plan was a lot of money, and it was designed to make sure we could carry the nation forward in dealing with vaccines, boosters, creating jobs, and keeping schools open, and a number of other things. And Gov, you said, send you money. We have. We send you a whole hell of a lot of money. And we're going to send you more. You keep using it as well as you have. We're talking about the ability to really, the way I look at it, and I mean this sincerely, and I've said it last night in a more casual way, we are at an inflection point, and we have an opportunity. America is one of those nations, I think the only nation, that's come out of every crisis stronger than it went into the crisis. And I'm not being, it's not hyperbole. We've had a crisis, we've come out, we've been stronger. And I think that's where we are again. And I think we have a chance to sort of restate and reassert our world leadership on a whole range of issues and lead the world on everything from the environment to dealing with the issues of immigration, a whole range of issues, Gov. But the American Rescue Plan gives us the resources to do many of those things. And, you know, there's a lot of challenges out there that we're not even talking to directly today. There's so many, but the surge of gun violence since the start of this pandemic. I made it clear we should use these funds to combat violent crime as well, including hiring additional police officers and investing in community violence interventions and improving the work in communities. And I know you're making those investments in Michigan. I know you're making those investments in New Jersey. You're making those investments in Ohio. A lot of you are making them all over the country. Another one of the national challenges, we need to bring back workers to better jobs with better pay and better working conditions than the ones that they left. The American Rescue Plan, there was a major part was $350 billion to allocate to your states and local budgets, as well as funds for school and for child care. And we know the difference this has made in jobs. Last year, we had the greatest job growth in American history. And as part of that, state and local jobs grew by 464,000, the most in 20 years. And Governor of Hawaii, you've talked about the 10,000 state workers that you're able to keep on the job thanks to the American Rescue Plan. I'm not sure where you're sitting, but at any rate, there you are, Gov, sorry. And I know that the education funds help many of you stay open, keep your schools open, and keep them open safely. There's a lot of money you have there for everything from dealing with ventilation to cleaning school buses and everything in between. There's no reason why we can't keep our schools open, in my view. And getting kids to school was an essential step getting our economy back to normal. We're not quite there yet, but we also know that if people find they can afford child care, they get back to work as well. I think we're going to be coming back to you. There's one reason why there's 1.2 million women who were working who are not in the job market now, because it's hard to get back, and the combination of worrying about the school open as well as whether or not there's the cost of child care. In 43 of your states, you've already gotten relief with 150,000 child care providers to help many of them keep their doors open and at a critical time, the actual physical facilities. And now we need to do even more to get Americans, keep them at work and the essential workers on the job. And that can mean, as some of you used, with hero retention bonuses, higher pay, temporary paid leave to combat burnout and essential health care workers like Delaware, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania have all announced. It can mean paid leave, as it's being done in the state of Washington. But keep schools open, to keep kids in school, to make up for learning losses. We need to bring back more teachers, more tutors, bus drivers, school nurses, and we're seeing creative efforts in North Carolina, for example, which is providing bonuses for all school employees, in Arkansas, as you know, Gov, which is creating a tutoring corps. And we're seeing in states like Kansas, New Jersey, and Nevada using funds to expand the pool of counselors and mental health care workers in our schools, which are badly needed, in my view. And already 27 states have announced they're using over $14 billion in the American Rescue Plan funds to get a head start on rebuilding our nation's infrastructure. As you said, Gov, you know how to build roads and bridges. Well, we got a hell of a lot to build, and we're gonna build a bunch of them, and also clean water and ports and a whole range of things. We have a lot of opportunity to build back a lot better. And I think it's really important, it's equally important to make sure we have well-trained and diverse workforce ready to fill the jobs and careers that our infrastructure law is going to help open up wide. And that means using the rescue plan funds to support union-based apprenticeships, community college partnerships, on-the-job training in key areas like advanced manufacturing and clean energy, which some of you are doing, and construction. And we're seeing states like Wisconsin, Colorado, Connecticut, North Carolina, Maine, Massachusetts, all doing that already. We have dozens of examples of how important the creative work that is underway is resulting, and we're providing a hell of a lot more flexibility that you all required. I think we've done that. If you haven't, I'd like to hear it today if you don't have enough flexibility. It's good work you're doing. It's a good start, and we need you to do even more to retain, train, and hire workers we need to serve our people and expand our economy. And so because of this is a chance for us to not only come together and get through this pandemic, it's a chance for us to come through it stronger and ready to build on our progress and deal more Americans in and win the competition of the future. We are doing better than any nation, any major nation in the world. We've got to keep that, we've got to pick it up. And I can think of no better group of people to pick it up with. It takes state leaders, federal business, labor. I've never seen as much cooperation that is across the board. There's differences, I know, but there's been a hell of a lot of cooperation across the board, including business and labor, pulling together, accelerating efforts, and trying to do a lot more to make sure we get out of this hole. And so I want to thank you all for being here. And I know you spoke today with the CDC. You had not the CDC, but you had the head of my COVID team in here. We got a way to go on that, in my view, but we're moving. And I think it's all about making sure we have the same standards we're applying across the board. As you said, Gov, we're going to try like the devil to keep schools open, because we do know, study after study, as all of you know, and you've done, the great universities in your states have done them, is that, losing a semester can put a kid back a year and a half. And so there's a whole lot we have to do, in my view, to focus. And I think that keeping schools open is a big part of that. And border security, Gov, we're working a lot with neighboring countries. A lot to do. There's a lot. I think one of the fundamental things we got to do, in addition to some of the changes we'll make, we don't get into today, but is that if we figure out why they're leaving in the first place, it's not like people sit around and say in in Guadalajara, I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have, give it to a coyote, take us across the border, leave us in a desert. The country doesn't want us, we don't speak the language. Won't that be fun? You know, there are gangs we're working on. There's a whole lot of illegal movement, but there's also a way to begin to deal with the reason they're leaving in the first place. And I'd love to talk with you personally about that a little bit, if I may. But having said that, why don't I stop and take any questions y'all may have? And they tell me I'm supposed to call on Governor Cox first.
Great. I think we'll have
Supreme Court candidates.
Thank you
And
guys.
how long is your
Thank
short
you guys. Let's go. Thank you guys. Thank you. Come on, let's go. Thank you. Thank you guys.